Let us imagine a vast and diverse continent where the indigenous peoples continued developing their cultures, sciences, and spiritualities without the interruption of European conquest. What would the Americas look like today if they had never been colonized? This is an exploration of a possible world, one that honors ancestral legacies not as ruins of the past, but as the roots of the future. The chronicles that reached us were written in European ink, but what would a Mexica codex or an intact Inca quipu have told us today? This chapter imagines a historiography untouched by the violence of conquest. In this alternate timeline, codices would have been preserved and multiplied. Native peoples would record their feats, alliances, discoveries, and rituals without interruption. Libraries made of amate paper and stone would be constantly growing, with writings in Nahuatl, Quechua, Mapudungun, and many other languages. Tenochtitlan, Cusco, Cahokia. What would these cities have become had they not been destroyed? These great urban centers would have evolved into sustainable metropolises, deeply integrated with nature. Monumental architecture would blend stone, wood, and living elements like vertical gardens and cleansing canals. Cities would be ceremonial, academic, and commercial hubs. Lakes would remain the urban heart, with water transport and floating markets thriving. Contrary to colonial myths, indigenous peoples were deeply inventive. These unconquered Americas would have birthed their own technological revolution. The telescope would arise from Mayan astronomy. Medicine would advance through Amazonian botanical knowledge. Smart textiles would come from Andean weaving traditions. Metallurgy would be directed not toward weapons, but toward energy, healing, and art. Free from the trauma of colonization, American societies would have preserved holistic education systems where learning was communal and ceremonial. From early childhood, every person would learn singing, language, agriculture, astronomy, dance, and community ethics. Universities would be open centers where knowledge is shared across generations. Indigenous languages would be universal, written and spoken with equal prestige to any global tongue. In this alternate world, ancestral knowledge would include not only healing but also protection. City-states would be guarded by ceremonial warriors trained not only in ritual combat, but in philosophy, astronomy, and botany. They would not use firearms but obsidian swords, natural energy shields, and symbiotic armor woven from minerals and living tissue. Metropolises would be protected by invisible energy domes, activated through solar rituals and artifacts that balance the surrounding energy. These domes would not isolate but harmonize the city's connection with the cosmos. Here, health would not be a business, but a balance. Traditional medicine would have evolved with empirical and spiritual foundations. Healers would be researchers and guides. Medicinal plants would be studied as living allies. Surgery would develop alongside energetic practices, and every community would have healing houses. Illness would be treated as an imbalance of soul, body, and environment. Imagine the continental trade routes. Mesoamerican civilizations would expand their networks north and south. Cacao, jade, maize, and chili peppers would be traded with Andean peoples, who in turn would offer potatoes, alpaca textiles, and refined metals developed through their own technologies. Unlike colonial looting, this world would feature autonomous collaborative economies, with seasonal fairs and diplomatic alliances between confederations and states. Bartering would evolve into symbolic monetary systems backed by grains, textiles, or obsidian figurines with ritual and economic value. Urban architecture would include circular markets, ceremonial plazas, and communal granaries, redistributing surplus based on agricultural and festive cycles. The concept of unlimited accumulation would be replaced by reciprocity. One of the greatest tragedies of conquest was the interruption of ancestral knowledge. In this alternate path, native sciences would flourish. Mayan calendars would be refined to atomic precision. The Incas would perfect hydraulic engineering to irrigate entire deserts. Free from imposed dogmas, the scientific method would emerge from astronomy, natural cycles, and botanical knowledge. Universities would be circular temples where priest-scientists share knowledge without hierarchy, based on communal merit. Quipus, Incan knotted cords, would evolve into complex data languages, early ancestors to computing. Mayan codices would continue in Amate paper, telling stories of astronomy and ecology. Indigenous religions were inseparable from nature. Rather than a uniform doctrine, thousands of ways existed to connect with the sacred: water, fire, maize, jaguar, moon. Without conquest, these worldviews would evolve into philosophical, ecological systems deeply rooted in daily life. Human and animal sacrifices had already begun to disappear before the Europeans arrived, replaced by symbolic offerings, fasting, or ritual dances. In this alternate present, spirituality would be a path of harmony with the earth, not a hierarchical imposition. Temples shaped like mountains, solar festivals, lunar retreats. Religion would not be a separate institution from the state, but an ethical guide for governance, agriculture, and coexistence. Without colonial borders, American civilizations would have formed a continental confederation. Though diverse in languages, climates, and customs, a network of mutual respect would unite Toltecs, Mapuches, Aymaras, Choctaws, and many more. This Pact of the Condor and the Eagle would symbolize the continent's spiritual unity. The introspective South, the visionary North. Each region would contribute wisdom and resources toward greater balance. Conflicts would exist, but be resolved through intertribal councils, spiritual mediators, and oral laws passed down by elders. Conquest would be replaced by convergence. This documentary is not just a thought experiment. It is a reflection of the potential still alive in indigenous communities. Though conquest happened, it did not erase memory, art, or resistance. Today, native peoples are rebuilding their languages, defending their lands, healing with their plants, and teaching through their stories. What if we listened? What if we rebuilt that unconquered America? From below, from within, from the heart. That is our possible America. Not as a museum, but as a horizon.